So now we've file created a plane, moved it down in space and called it ground. So you click the plane. Under shading, you can turn on wireframe. So when the geometry is not selected, you can see a faint outline of the grid on the geometry. So now I've selected the perspective camera under the panels, and the image is partly obscured, and that's because our far clipping plane is too small. So I've added a couple digits to the number to make it larger, and now you can see all of our image plane and our camera in the scene. Now I'm just moving the plane closer to the image plane and then scaling it up. And it's basically almost to touch the image plane and have it go out into the right distance. Now I'm checking it back in our shot camera, and I'm just, trying to eyeball exactly where the horizon would be. Um, and, in this image plane is our guide map. So now I'm just scaling up. Again, move it probably back down. And then you can just keep checking it back and forth, and I'll switch between the perspective view and the shot cam view because sometimes it's just easier with the manipulators to move things left and right. And now we'll create more simple geometry. We'll create a simple cylinder. And where is it? There it is. It's super tiny, way far away from our image. So let's just pull that back. What I'm doing is I'm actually just pulling the camera back. There's the cylinder now. So again, super tiny. And then I'll just, again, eyeball it to start getting it to fit to where our sketch is. And basically, you'll keep building your image in this way. You'll just keep adding. If you're not much of a modeler, I wouldn't, overcomplicate this and make really complex forms. I would just try to use some of the basic geometric shapes that Maya gives you, which is cylinder, cube, sphere. The plane is obviously great for the ground plane. And then what I'm doing right now is I am making the base of that rock outcrop that my castle is on. Scaling, shifting, moving, and then move it over. And again, this is just eyeballing it. And then you can see it start to intersect the floor of the ground. And I just keep moving it. And then you can do different versions on this where you can change it to component mode. If you right click with your mouse, I'm selecting the vertices on the top, and then I'll go to scale it, and then scale it globally from the center, the yellow square, and then scale it down. And then now I'll switch back to object mode and then move the whole object. So there's different, modes in my component mode, object mode. Now we'll create another cylinder. And then this cylinder will become either one of the towers or the main castle form. And now I created a sphere. And then I'll move the sphere higher up so that it's going to be the top roof of the tower. And if you hit F, that'll frame whatever object that you have in your scene. Now I don't need the lower half of this, so again, right click, and this time I selected faces, and then I just deleted the faces, and then I went back to object mode, move that sphere down, and I increase the scale a little bit, move this back down, maybe lengthen the shaft so it's more longer, and again, just move this down. Look through the camera, there you can see it. Now if I left click both of them and control G, it'll make a group, and then it'll rename this tower 1. And what that will do is now you can move both objects together as one. And it's just, kind of like, Photoshop in that sense. It's an organizational thing. And we'll move that back in space So it basically lands up on this base that we created. And as you can see, when you start orbiting around, it's a little deceiving when you're working in 3D exactly where objects are. Now that we've moved it way far back in space, you can see that the scale of this is way too small. So we'll just scale this up and then raise it up.